That's exactly what was happening. Tucker was talking to people that the NSA was watching for obvious reasons, and then Tucker was trying to get the Putin interview. Um, and I'm sure Putin was he's a master puppet, right? I'm sure he had Tucker all in his web for sure, right? So, and that's how Tucker came on the NSA radar, was because he was talking to these people who NSA is watching. So Tucker know this story was coming. I'm sure, as you know, like you said, he got tipped off, and so he basically came out in front and said, the NSA is watching me. They tapped my emails. They tapped my phones. Boom, boom, boom. So he could get out in front of the narrative. The narrative truly is Tucker wanted the Putin interview, was talking to people who are, I would deem unsavory and probably dangerous Russian spy type of sort of situation. And he got caught up in a web of lies, thinking he was going to get this interview and have the ultimate trump card, no pun intended. And he got caught up. And so but this is what we always talk about. Republicans play this game really well. He painted it that he was being spied on, and we know the truth now. But I wonder how much people will actually believe the truth. That's the struggle now. Is when Trump kind of said this fake news, going back to that first Sean Spicer presser when he was talking about the crowd. It really sows doubt, and so I wonder. We know the truth, but I wonder how much of the truth is known in the mainstream.
Well, what it says to me though too is, to your point about Putin and his involvement potentially with this, is what is it about the right wing with Trump and his cronies, in which they are literally consistently talking to people who are showing up. Now, here's the funny thing though that I think is really weird is I still think he might be up to no good, because I'm sure if you and I were government officials, if you and I were reporters, if you and I were at a high level in either one of those areas, we would probably come in contact with these very Russians that are being tracked. But I would also assume that it would be very apparent by our communications with these folks that our communication with these people is above board, and we would not be freaked out by showing up on their system. I might be wrong, right? I know people do not like to show up in any kind of wiretaps or tracking, but you would imagine that there are probably a handful, I won't say a handful, I don't know. There's probably a significant number of Russians that are being tracked by the FBI, being tracked by the NSA, who are also people that are communicated with by legitimate members of the press and by above board government officials, and it's just kind of like part of the job that you're going to show up. And the only reason to take offense potentially is because what you got caught communicating is really, really bad.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point. Actually, makes me think of kind of the whole Matt Gates and the Venmo. Like, I know for a fact we're not dealing with the brightest people. So Tucker probably was in a web that he was probably too. It was probably too big for him to understand that he was in. I'll give you a perfect example. Do you remember when John Oliver landed the Snowden interview? That was like historic, right? And Snowden was in Russia. I'm sure John Oliver had to take certain channels that probably weren't the safest, but that didn't pop up. The only reason we knew it happened is because the interview dropped online, right? So he wasn't probably in any web that he didn't think he was in. So I guess you're right in that sense, right? Like Tucker was definitely probably up to no good because he's trying to spin this story as much as possible. It really made me think of the John Oliver situation because Snowden was in Russia, and I'm sure that they had their fingerprints all over that as well.
Yeah, you and I both know that if we're talking Snowden and we're talking about locking down that interview, John Oliver or John Oliver's people probably talked to a significant number of people who
For
are being
sure.
watched. But because they were not doing anything wrong, and well, here's the thing: the NSA was never ever going to tell the public. This is where it's
Yeah.
also is suspect on Tucker's part. The NSA was never ever going to tell the public that they were listening in, or well, first of all, I don't think the NSA listens in, right? Do they really listen in, or do they just see person A talk to person B? Are they actual taps, or is it more? I always
Um,
thought that it was more of a. I always thought it
but
was
I
more
thought
of
I
a
thought this was
John
emails.
is
It wasn't. I don't think it was phone calls. I thought it was emails.
okay. Okay. Well, whatever the case is, they're never going to come out and say that. So Tucker outed himself, and Tucker outed himself because somebody in the NSA told him, and it said somebody, and we should have I should have probably prepped for it better, but there was an individual who worked in the Trump administration who was relieved of their security clearances, if not their job outright, right around the time Tucker started singing, and that is the speculation. Is we don't know if that is exactly why that person was relieved of their security clearance and potentially punished further. But I do know that they were timed around the same time, and there was significant speculation in media circles that that's what happened.